Hey everyone, it's Andrew. So this is going to be a video giving a good general overview about the Merrell Moc shoes. I've been using these shoes for about 4 or 5 years now for work purposes. So in this video I'm going to go over 4 separate pairs that I've used over the years, kind of the subtle nuances from one pair to the next and different style variations that have existed with the different models. And then what I'll also do is just give my general impressions of the shoe as a whole. A little bit of background, I work in healthcare, so I'm a neurosurgery resident. I'm on my feet pretty much all the time, either on the floor or in different procedures. And so I'm on my feet like non-stop for about like an hour to 6 hours at a time, or if I'm on call, sometimes 24 hours straight where I don't even get my shoes off. So for me, when I'm looking for a shoe, I'm really looking for something that is waterproof, protects me from any nasty bodily stuff that might drip, and then is easily cleanable. Additionally, I want something that is like durable, doesn't fall apart, I don't have to buy on a regular basis. And additionally, I kind of like a general professional look, so something leather, just because it's a little bit nicer than just like your athletic shoe or sneaker that most people use in the OR or something like that. Beyond that, like comfort for me actually is not as big a deal. Like a lot of people in healthcare look for comfort, but I don't run into that issue as much. Like my feet don't bother me if I'm standing for prolonged periods, so I can't really speak to that as much. The only thing I can say is that with these shoes in general, I haven't ever felt uncomfortable on my feet or my feet hurting at the end of the day, which could be like attributable to the shoe itself, or it's just the nature of how my feet are. I do a lot of like minimalist shoe kind of running and stuff like that, so that might be why too, just because my feet are more used to kind of that sort of thing. So that's just a little bit of background. What I'll do now is turn the camera so you can see all the shoes, and we'll just go one by one and kind of the nuances from one model to the next. Okay, so here's all the shoes lined up side by side. The ones that are older towards the right here, okay? And then chronologically it goes from these shoes over to the ones on the left. I started wearing the Jungle Mocs about 4 or 5 years ago for work purposes, and I really liked them a lot, which is why I've kind of consistently bought them on a regular basis. So starting on the right, these are the Merrell Jungle Mocs in black slate. These were my first pair, so if you look, all these shoes are pretty standard as far as design. Essentially, it's this leather kind of setup, and it's a slip-on shoe. It's got like this elastic, so you can slip it on and off pretty easily. And then there's a tab on the back if you really need to get the shoe on. The bottom, at least this variation, was a little bit different, where it has a lot of arch support and some padding there. And this one at least had this like cross weave or like cross weave design where it had this like grip from this standpoint. I really like these shoes a lot. These were great. They were my first pair of Merrell Mocs or Jungle Mocs, and I liked them so much that it kind of convinced me to buy another pair. And so I started with these. I used these in the OR for like almost like a year and a half or so, but over time it just got beat up. As you can tell, the leather's a little bit more worn. It's kind of flexible, things like that. The tab here, I would think it was this pair, yeah. This pair, the tab like slid off or like slipped a little bit more on one of the shoes, and so then yeah, it kind of broke off there, so I had to glue it back together at one point. But ultimately, because I like these shoes so much, I ended up like continuing on and getting more of them. As you can tell, as you wear it more, it gets loose, the leather, more pliable, and the size doesn't fit as well. But in general, like the size from one model to the next is pretty good, except for this one, which I'll talk about later. So that's the Merrell Jungle Mocs, probably from 2017 or 16 or so. I don't know the specific model, but they probably don't even make them anymore, but I've liked these shoes a lot. The only difference from this model to the other ones, as you'll be able to see, is that they did change the bottom. So personally, I like this bottom a little bit more. It was a little bit more pliable and comfortable, versus this one. They had a lot of texture and grip to it, and it's a little bit different and not as comfortable. There was a little bit more padding across the arch here, but that's something that did change into these models moving forward. So that's that shoe. In general, so even after like whatever this is 4 years, these shoes, the leather's held up pretty well. What I use as far as like cleaning it and conditioning it is if it's like gross from like the OR and I get like blood or something on it, I'll wipe it off immediately with like cavi wipe. But otherwise I'll use like saddle soap like this, like kiwi saddle soap, or and then followed up with conditioning oil, and that just keeps the leather kind of clean and nice. So that's the first pair I got. They held up pretty well. I'll probably throw these out after this video just because I no longer need them, but in general the wear is usually at the toes here, and then you do get some wear on the back here if your foot's sliding in and out a lot, especially on my right one here, as you can tell. But I'll probably throw those out. Real quickly, between these two models, I did end up trying to get the Merrell men's Moab Moc shoes. I bought them in a 10.5, and they were the most uncomfortable shoe I ever wore. I expected them to be similar design and kind of fit and things like that, but they were horrible. Like my toe had hit the front of it. It was very painful. It was uncomfortable. I ultimately just like wore them twice and then got rid of them. So that was in between. So I don't recommend those shoes whatsoever. And then, so that's that. The next shoe I got was the Jungle Mocs, virtually the exact same copy of these shoes, but updated. And so, as I was showing you earlier, the bottoms were a little bit different, where it's got this more grippy texture along the middle and these little like kind of like pillar kind of grips along the side, which is different from this one. A little bit less comfortable in general because of that, but it does have a little bit more grip. And then the rest of the shoe is virtually identical, which is nice from one model to the next because you're kind of knowing what you're buying and purchasing. As you can see, virtually the same on the side, same on the front otherwise, and kind of the side here. These again are in the black slate 10.5. It's essentially this brown color. It holds up pretty well as far as the color and kind of things like that. Again, I wore probably about a year. Didn't really have any issues, but they do kind of, as you can tell, get some wear on the back here, and then kind of the front here kind of falls off over time. But over time what you find is like with these shoes, they're very like not comfortable but like tight to begin with, but then they'll loosen up as you break them in, and at some point it just slips a little bit more than you'd like. So that's at that point, that's when I end up purchasing a new one. And so that's kind of what happened with these, is like my foot sliding in and out, like it just like moved a little bit more than I would like, where the bottom's like worn on the actual bottom of the foot, as well as like sliding a little bit more too much like than it's used to, or the leather kind of wears out a little bit more, so it just isn't as comfortable as like when you get them new. And that's kind of my trigger for getting a new one, but that's kind of how they look when you put them on. And they slide easily on and off and that sort of thing. But that's that pair. This is the other pair that goes with it. As you can see, the wear and tear, kind of the lip here as well as the back here, and the bottom you can't really see, but it just kind of like wears down a little bit over time and isn't as comfortable. But these two were virtually identically the same shoe, except for the bottom, and so I've liked those a lot. No issues with these otherwise. I wore them and just kind of wore them out, and then ended up purchasing new ones. So that's those ones. Next is, there's two separate pairs I got probably December of last year around Christmas time. This is the Merrell Jungle Moc Suede-Sable color. I'll talk about this one, and then this is the Jungle Moc Leather 2. There's nuances with these that I actually found drawbacks for the first time after using these other shoes. And so first, the suede, this is a funny story. So I sent a link to my dad for Christmas for a gift, because I wanted like these shoes again because I loved them, and these were starting to wear out at that time. And so I sent him the brown one, and he ends up sending me this sable color, and it's like the suede, and it was probably the ugliest shoe I've ever seen. It's got this orange here, but it had like pink, like you can't really, on the stitching you can see it's pink, but it was like this suede pink, and it was absolutely horribly ugly. Like it's like that color right there. So they literally sat in the box for a month, and I'm like, am I really gonna wear these or not? And I ended up, what I did was I took like the kiwi conditioning oil on this, and it allowed it to darken to the point where it's more manageable as far as using, but they're still very, very bright, and I like waited too long to return them, so I never got the chance to return them. But that's like a little backstory on that. So if you, little kind of things is, unlike these, the leather pairs, is this is suede. So when you first get it, it's this like suede, like, suede material, like cloth-like. So if you drip something on it or something like that, it's harder to clean and it's more likely to stain on it. But with the conditioning oil, at least it's got it down to like this, similar to leather, where it's like this like matted kind of feel, and it does hold up pretty well. As you can tell, the bottoms for these two are identical. Nothing's changed as far as the model from that standpoint. I've got like wear and tear from this one on the heel there, but otherwise it's the exact same shoe. The back is the same too. Sides are the same. So from one model to the next, it's virtually identical. But the color and the suede aspect was different with this. So if you run into the situation where you've got the suede, you can always try the conditioning oil on it, but it's going to end up like this matted kind of thing. But this color was horrible. I'd recommend a different color if you're kind of using that. I really just use this for when I'm in the OR procedures. The fit on this is really good though. So when you first get these, this is 10.5 as well. It's very tight, and it's like you're like the bottom here where the like arch support is like it's very flush with your foot, so you get a lot of support from that standpoint, and you get a lot of control as far as walking, so you don't slip or anything. Over time, what I anticipate is this as the padding wears out, it'll slip again like this one does, and then I'll just get a new one. But so far, like the feel for these, I like the most out of all of them. It's similar when I've got this the first time, but there's no issue as far as feel and comfort. These are very comfortable, and there's nothing wrong with the shoe other than the color and kind of the suede aspect of it. And that was just probably a mistake on my part as far as sending the wrong link or my dad not understanding what to send. But that's the Jungle Moc Suede-Sables. I wouldn't get that color, but they're really, really good shoes in general. And then lastly, we have the Jungle Moc LTR, which stands for leather, 2s. So these are a little bit different. Unlike kind of the leather on these Jungle Mocs, these are like this hard leather. This is more of like a pliable, like, I don't know, like calf leather or something. It's much softer than the other ones. And so what happened when I first got these, there's nothing inherently wrong with the shoe, but they are 10.5. When I first got them, they didn't fit well. So even though every other shoe I've ever had is a 10.5, what I found was when I put this on, compared to like these, these I got at the exact same time. These brand new fit almost like these after a year, where they would slip. So if you can tell right here, like my foot is sliding like way more, and it's a 10.5. For some reason it's sized inappropriately, where you probably need, like for me, a size 10 or a half a size down for this type of shoe for some weird reason. Like I put these on, I'm like, this is the wrong size, and then I check the label and it's like 10.5, and I'm like, that's wrong, because literally I've worn every other shoe as a 10.5 and I haven't had issues. So it's very strange. But with I guess with the leather, because it's softer, it doesn't have to break in as much as these shoes had to do. So these kind of feel, when you first get them, like these did almost a year out. And so for this shoe, like literally you can see there's excess size around the back here, and like it slides forwards and back. So what I ended up having to do is just get in like a Dr. Scholl's insert, cutting it and sliding in that way. And so that's what I've done here. And it makes it so the shoe is more snug, but it still isn't the greatest fit compared to like these ones. So like side by side, if I put these on versus these are way more comfortable, and it's just a sizing issue. So if I went down like a half a size, these would probably be pretty good. But in general, as you can tell, these were bought at the same time. The model's exactly the same. Like the bottom's the same, the back is like the same tab type of thing. There's no difference there. And it's just this has this like softer calf leather, but in general I feel like it's a nicer, more professional looking shoe as far as like wearing it like in professional settings versus like this one or like athletic shoes. But there is this nuance where the sizing is just weird with it, and I haven't had that issue ever before. But that's really it. As far as wear and tear, this is about a year out. Like this one, literally, I wear probably 2-3 times a week, and this one I wear 2 to 3 times a week. It depends on the week, but like this one has absolutely no wear. There's no like wear and tear on it. Like subtly, like the lip here is coming up, but there's no wear on the back. And then similarly, what happens with this one is like this one, the lip on the left foot is like coming off here, but like the back's fine here, and similarly that one too. So, but that's kind of like a general overview of the Jungle Mocs. I absolutely love these shoes. If you're in healthcare, you're on your feet all day or something like that, these are great shoes. I personally like the leather ones more than the suede, just out of personal preference and the fact that I think it looks a little bit more professional. Additionally, it's easier to clean. You can wipe them down easier, and using like this like the conditioning oil or something like that, it maintains it really well, like any other leather shoe. I haven't really tried any other kind of work shoe for healthcare settings like the dance codes and things like that, but these have been my go-to shoe and I like them a lot, which is why I highly recommend them to others. I'll put a link to the description for all these on Amazon if I can find them. If you have any questions or anything, please comment. I'd be happy to answer them, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day.